Okay, so welcome everyone. Thanks for joining me on this Zoom session coming here over from Meetup. This session today is about finding a peer husband. And for anybody also interested from the men here, it's also a little bit of insight into how I help women look for potential spouses and what they're looking for. And I touch on a few things to think about as a man that we can improve in our lives as well. So this is for everyone. So getting into it, my motivation and my passion is about marriage. One of my favorite quotes is the greatest institution is marriage, because I believe that how we are at home, that safe space, how we build a family, how we teach our children is so integral to society. And when things break down in the home, society tends to break down as well. So I want to help people find those lifelong, deep, and valuable relationships. A little bit about myself. So when it comes to my academic career and what I've done as a job working for another company for about the last 10 years, I've worked as a systems engineer and analyst. And what that means is I come from a very analytical, critical viewpoint of understanding complex systems and how they interact with other systems and how they integrate with them, and understand when things go wrong and why they go wrong as an analyst, but also as an engineer developing them. So what this means is that my profession is in problem solving. With that being said, I went to grad school. My focus was originally, when I was getting my master's and going for my PhD, was because I wanted to get into teaching. So part of what I did was I took feedback from over 200 students and learned how to rewrite my curriculums at the university. So my passion is really reaching people of different backgrounds and diversities and being able to teach them especially complicated subjects. Now, when it comes to relationships, I'm a relationship analyst and consultant. I look at a lot of data. And like I do with engineering, I work as a data analyst to analyze a lot of the trends in society and make sense of what's going on. And then I use my critical eye in order to solve those problems and help people through them. So I've been doing this for about the last 6 years. I finally decided to, once I figured out what Meetup was, kind of start Meetup and start this group. I have worked with coaching young adults and adults from varying ages, from, let's say 18 to 26, 27, including people from 30 to 45. And I feel like the different generations have very different problems. And I've noticed that within my family and friends. So I like to reach as many people as possible to understand this dynamic and help people out in every age or stage of their life. I've also attended many marriage seminars. And I've done a lot of work with helping them restructure their own seminars and rethink the way that they're teaching people about what marriage is and how they can reach people to give them advice. Because one of the things I was talking about earlier was with somebody who came in a little bit early was we need to be careful about the advice we receive. Because even if people have the best of intentions, we need to be able to take it in context and decide what to listen to and why. This is part of why I do what I do. I've also developed what's called the Single to Married program. So this is one of the free series that I'm doing to at least help people change their perspective if they need, or give a little bit of encouragement to continue going. So the Single to Married program is a 10-step process that is for anybody. It's a unisex program and designed to be completed within 1 year. Meaning, if we break things down into our 10-step process in 12 weeks accomplishment increments, this is something that if you're extremely dedicated to, it may not take you a year, but it could take you only a year. Now, these 10 steps are broken down into 6 key areas, of which I will be doing multiple series on these. These include your future goals, your knowledge, skills, and abilities, understanding and perspective, especially of the opposite sex and how you come across and what you may need to work on for yourself, the qualification process, meaning how we evaluate somebody else and whether they're ready and what we need, expectations, meaning what is reasonable to expect of people, and are my standards, I would say, realistic? And that realistic standards are definitely, I think, a very personal viewpoint. So there's kind of a scale that we go on. It's not, cut and dry. And also time frame and committing. Like, what is the time frame you might believe you can work on this, and how long might it take you, and are you ready to commit? And what does committing mean? So the first thing is a general viewpoint on marriage. I'm trying to be as vague as possible, or as I would say, not vague, but as generic, so we can reach as many different people from different backgrounds, maybe even religious faiths. But basically, marriage is a commitment that includes a vision of the future around family values. It requires some sort of loyalty to that commitment, and also pure perseverance in order to keep the relationship together and be unified. I would say it necessarily includes conflict, but conflict isn't always bad. Everyone has problems. They have problems with themselves. They have problems with the world. Sometimes we don't cause problems, but they will happen to us. And so it's quite normal to expect we'll have conflict with somebody else. But what I'm going to talk about, especially here and in our future programs, is how conflict is good and brings people together, and what type of conflict is bad. But we're not going to get into too much today. And I just wanted people to think for themselves, like, what's your reason for getting married? It could be a religious reason. It could be a business reason. It could be a strategic reason. It could be that you are looking for love, and that's the most important thing to you. But I think that in order to reach an end goal, one of the most important things is to think about why. Because if we don't have a clear vision of why we're doing something, when life gets tough, it's very easy for us to quit or lose sight. So we're going to get into our topic today of husbands. Now, I talk about pure husbands in the title, but we're going to be talking about how to compare and contrast them with other type of men. So the three I'm going to be talking about are people who are definitely not, blatantly not a husband, somebody who's emerging into that role, and somebody who is a pure husband. Somebody who's definitely not a husband is not stable. This could be in their decision-making process, in their emotional state, in how they move through the world. It's just not stable. They don't have a vision for the future, meaning they don't have anything to work towards, and therefore they don't have discipline. It's very hard to commit to something when you don't have a vision or goals in the future and a plan to work through it. This also means they don't have a drive to be better, because they don't have a reason to spend time in the self-sacrifice process of self-improvement and going somewhere with their life, and can include a multitude of character issues. Now, I want to be clear, when we're going to be talking about a pure husband later, they are not necessarily perfect. But what I'm trying to highlight here in character issues are grave issues that stop people from having a healthy relationship with somebody else. This could be extreme physical violence or anger issues. It could be whether they're even considerate of others at all. And it can be a multitude of things. Ultimately, they're the cause of breaking good relationships, that people care about them and are good influences, but ultimately they cause more discordance between people and cause others to drive away from each other rather than towards each other, which means they don't really engage in a community building process. They choose bad influences and they don't care. They spend way too much time on distractions. One of the biggest problems is can't take constructive criticism. This is one of the biggest red flags when it comes to relationships for both men and women. We all have our problems, as I said. There will be conflict. But if we cannot take constructive criticism from somebody else, ultimately what we're saying is, I think I'm right, or I know I'm right. I don't care about others, and it doesn't matter how much sense you make, I'm not going to listen to you. And that is a very problematic person. And ultimately, that is a bad decision-making process. Now, an emerging husband is I would say somebody that you can see potential and you can see where they're going, but they don't quite have consistent execution in their life. So they're focused on gaining knowledge, skills, resources, and abilities in order to have a healthier relationship and have a goal in life, but they might not have a consistent schedule or consistent way of achieving it, although it is on their priority list. So they do know what they need to prioritize, but they're still practicing juggling what they should commit to. They're learning how to cut out distractions. They might be reading or learning new things. So they're on that goal, but they're not ready quite yet. And this includes things such as learning how to excel in their work life. Something that's a huge key indicator for me and the people that I work with is how they think and execute their jobs and whether they care about them. And one of the things that I try and teach people is if you don't care about your job, one of the things you need to do is find something you care about and go excel at it. One of the most important things in life is when we decide to spend time on something, whatever takes up most of the time in our life, the more we teach ourselves not to care about it, the more dead inside we become. And that transfers over to our relationships with others. So a key indicator can be how hard they work or how much they care about something, not necessarily what the position they have is. So for instance, a male school teacher who only makes $40,000 or $50,000 a year, depending on where you are, might not be a high status position for certain women, but for other women, it's not about that. It's how much time do they spend leading and teaching children? How much do they care? What is the work they put into it? And that is usually the key indicator of success in a relationship. It's not necessarily how much money they make or the position they hold. Now, they're still working on increasing their willpower and the determination to solve problems, but they still kind of quit too early on things they shouldn't quit on. They have definitely a better process of decision making, but they still don't practice enough introspection. Now, the last part is really when I want people to understand and realize what a pure husband is. They have an overall sense of purpose and they stick to it, meaning they don't let people misguide them or take them away from that purpose or convince them that they shouldn't do something that they decided is either their life purpose or is important. They have written and clear goals, and you notice that they act in a direct manner to achieve those goals. If whatever they're doing isn't working, they go back to the problem-solving process and they try something else, and it makes sense. And one of the most important things that I try and teach people is the difference between somebody who is righteous, determined, and has integrity, and somebody who's just a jerk. Somebody who's a jerk will commit to their thoughts, their ideals, their plans, and their processes, but they cannot take constructive criticism and they don't care about what other people think to the point where they're a problem and they don't care about it. However, somebody who is ready to get married and is a pure husband, it's not just that, it's the fact that what they think, they have a justified reason for it. And ultimately, even if you disagree with them, it might make sense that it's a righteous thing. And they don't allow people to sway them so easily. One of the most important things is in a relationship, we're going to have our own problems. Do I bring in unnecessary problems to said relationship? Meaning, do I enter things that don't concern me and gossip unnecessarily? Do I say things about problems that should be private between me and somebody else and I tell the world, possibly ruining people's reputation? Or do I simply say, you know what? It does not concern me. Therefore, I'm not going to get unnecessarily involved and possibly cause things to be worse. This is a very good sign that somebody knows how to have a healthy relationship. They know how to lead and execute leadership qualities. Now, not everybody wants to lead a community. Not everybody wants to be a manager. Not everybody wants to have that type of responsibility. And I'm not necessarily talking about that. What I'm talking about when we talk about introspection and solving our problems and solving our partner's problems or serving each other, we're leading ourselves. And if we don't understand that we need to lead ourselves at the very least, as well as have a hand in leading our relationship or our family, then we're not ready to commit. So they need to have some sort of leadership qualities even about themselves. And this is in the self-improvement process. They're open-minded and considerate of the others around them. They may disagree. They may have some problems with people, but they're not looking to create problems. They're looking to solve problems, and they're not looking to become a burden on others. And this goes right into, do you notice that in their friend group or strangers or people at work, do they actively work to bring up and raise people in happiness or status or knowledge or abilities, or are they shoving people into the ground? So, for instance, my friends and I are very critical of each other because we really care about each other as men and we want us to excel. If I know how to do something and my friend doesn't know how to commit, or he has problems in his life, I want to help him solve it. But I'm not going to put him down and say he's horrible. And this is a very important quality because when we commit to somebody, our problems come out in the open and we become vulnerable, and that's a good thing. But we need to trust that if they can help us, that they're going to help us. They're not going to berate us. They're not going to put us down. They're not going to demean us in order to gain status, power, or control in the relationship. That they're actually looking to help us and make us better. And even if it hurts us to hear, their intentions are to help us. And last few points. Ultimately, it's very difficult to be a husband if you do not understand what a wife or a woman might need and how to give it to them. Now, I'm especially critical of social media and mainstream views on relationships. I think things can go viral and get out of hand very quickly. So when I am talking about this, I am not putting the burden on one sex. It is always a balance between both people in saying, I need something. I expect somebody to reach out their hand to me and hopefully understand where I'm coming from, and that's them wanting to serve me, but I should also come from an area of wanting to serve them and reach my hand out and try and reach them as well. There's always a give and take and a balance in relationships, and that's what I'm trying to get at. If a man does not understand what women need and how to give it to them, or how to find that out, that is going to be a very painful growing process, even if at all. Some people don't want to grow. They don't want to understand. They want to say, I'm a man, this is what I need, and this is what you're going to do. And that's very difficult to work with because it's very lopsided and it's not balanced, and there needs to be balance in a relationship. And the last thing that I want to say when it comes to specifically pure husbands is, are they living the life for the most part they would already be living if they were married? The only difference is they're not. That's one of the biggest indicators if we were to summarize it all. Meaning, if a guy, let's just say, is going to the bar every few days and they want to meet women there, or they're getting drunk with their friends, or they're staying up till 3 a.m. playing video games. And men, I'm just using these examples. These aren't the only ones. These are just the commonly well-known ones. Why do we think that they're going to change because they got married? If it's important how long they've been doing that too. If somebody's been going to a bar every Friday, Saturday, and Sunday night for the last 10 years, it's a habit. Why do we want to believe that that person is going to change the habit the moment we get married? It's one of the things I run through with people when they're ready to get married and write down what they want or what they need from somebody else is we need to look for people's habits, because they're not going to change overnight. And there are certain things we just cannot expect people to change. It's good if they do, but we need to look at how they're living their life right now. Because if I'm not living my life with the goal of getting married, then I'm not doing what we talked about before, is working in a way to achieve those goals. And going to places that are problematic and doing problematic things don't help us achieve good goals. It moves us away from it. So we need to look at how they do that as well. I know that things can be taken out of context, and I'm trying to speak as generically as possible. So there's this idea that a lot of men want to say, which is, oh, I might not have a job, or I don't say not have a job. I might not have a high-paying job, or to somebody's standards, or I might not have the house you want, or I might not have multiple cars, or I might not be able to take the person around the world on the trips they want. And a lot of men say, but it's an investment. Stop chasing material wealth. And I think, again, as with everything, there needs to be a balance. So when we talk about investing in a guy, if we go back to what an emerging husband is, or even a purely not a husband, they are not investments. They're not ready to commit. If we are ready to commit and they are not, we do not commit. It has to go both ways. So when we talk about investing in a man, it has nothing to do with, I believe they're going to change. I believe they're going to get better in the future. And it's more so, they may not have the material wealth yet. They might not have what we want in terms of things that make life easier. But if their character and their process is correct, that is going to be what makes a relationship stable, long-term, deep, and valuable. Now, you personally might have your own standards and say, I want a man who has a PhD. I want a man who can afford certain things. And I'm not saying that's wrong. I am trying to focus on the base level of what is going to make a relationship work from an emotional and logical standpoint. Now, when it comes to your own personal standards and views and how to work with them, that is something that I do one-on-one as part of my coaching praxis, is help people with their specific individual situations make sense of it, put it in context, and try and move from there. So again, it's not about the material wealth, although that can help and make life better. And it's not about their connections and who they know necessarily, because at the end of the day, you have to deal with them. And money is an amazing tool, but it can be a tool for building, and it can be a tool for destruction. And that's something that we need to keep in mind. It's about their character, where they are actively going. And if their mindset is, I may not have that job, I may not have that company, I may not have these things, I may not have a family now, but nobody's going to stop me from achieving it. That is the mindset we're talking about. What are they actively doing right now in order to get it that will make them materially successful? Now, for guys, I think it's very important that we do kind of write out what our vision is for the future. And if we haven't reached that point in our lives, which people reach at multiple stages of their life, some people know what they want to do at 20. Some people believe they know what they want to do at 10 or 12 years old, and they go on to do it. Some people don't find out their purpose until they're 40, 50, 60. That's okay. It doesn't have to do with your age. It has to do with taking all the experiences you've had and what you want in life. What do you think you want to do? And write those goals down. But one of the most important things is also looking within ourselves. And this goes for both men and women. What are our vices? Like, what do we have any vices? Do we get angry too quickly? Are we not good friends? Like, do we give bad advice, or do we forget to follow up with people? Do I bring up negativity all the time? You know what I'm saying? Or do I have a gambling problem? Do I have an addiction problem? And addiction isn't always, by the way, like a porn or drugs or any of these things that are very destructive, obviously. It can be simple things like, I'm addicted to TV. And instead of talking to people, I just want to come home and be brain dead and watch the same shows over and over again without doing anything different. Addiction can be looking at my phone. Maybe I look at my phone way too much and I'm doom scrolling on TikTok. Or an addiction can also be work. One of the most important things we talked about is having family values. It is very difficult to have a good relationship with your spouse if you're working so hard and so long that you don't even give them quality time. Now, there's always a balance, and it depends on your specific situation, what your potential partner or your partner is okay with, but it requires discussion, negotiation, and acceptance. So whatever your problems are, like, are you aware? Do you recognize them? And do you have a way to solve them? And if not, are you trying to? And one of the last things is, are you protective of your responsibilities, of the things you own, of your friends, of your family, of your job? Are you leading yourself forward in life? And are you considerate of others? I think that one of the easiest things that turns away women is when men tend to be inconsiderate. And I mean that there are so many things we can talk about that I will in the future, especially for the men. But if I don't care that I don't have good hygiene and I smell bad, like, why do I think anybody is going to listen to me or be around me? If I'm frowning all the time, or I'm bringing up negativity, or if I'm being rude and I don't care, why am I going to expect that things are going to get better? These are all things for men I want you to think about, but it's not just the men. This goes for everybody. It's very important that we try and come up with a plan, and we stick to it, and we understand what our problems are so we can solve them. So out of the last 30 minutes or so that I've been talking, I do want to leave some time for the question and answer session. And I want to kind of summarize this, that if you don't remember all the specific points I've been talking about, I had these 4 qualities that's really important to look for in somebody. Are they righteous? Meaning, when they want to do something, does it make sense, or is it problematic? Do I agree with it? We might have a different understanding of what righteousness is. So at the end of the day, whatever you believe righteousness it is that what you see in them? That might be from a religious perspective. If you're religious, it might come from your holy book, holy text, your clergy. It might come from your own understanding of morality. And what I'm trying to get at is, it's not about that. It's whatever you think is righteous, is that other person the same way? Because if we disagree, I'm not trying to say about who's right. I'm trying to say that if you don't believe the other person is righteous, then what does that mean? It means that we think they might be evil or corrupt. We might not say it, we might not admit it, but day to day, the decisions that we make will drive us further apart because we're not understanding them and we don't agree with them. Are they reasonable? Whatever they believe, whatever they want to do, can they be reasoned with? Meaning, does it exactly have to be their way, the same way all the time without change? Or is there a way that they can move through life and negotiate and self-sacrifice, but they're still moving forward? Ready. Ready means that whatever problems I might see in that person, I don't have a reason to believe that it's going to lead to the downfall, destruction, bad feelings, divorce, or whatever that marriage, through marriage or our relationship. They might have their problems, but I don't think that is going to tear us apart. Because again, everybody has problems. But ready means that they can commit, they're loyal, they're ready to solve problems, they look to serve others, and whatever problems might come in the relationship, again, their stance and their attitude is, I'm going to find a way to solve this. I want to make it better, and I'm going to do it for the sake of our relationship, not for the sake of arguing and being right. And I'm not going to bring in unnecessary problems into it. And the last thing is decisive. They have to be able to make a decision. If they don't know what to do, they're very hard to lean on. It's very hard to trust somebody who can't make a decision. So I would say righteous, reasonable, ready, and decisive. With that being said, after this question and answer session we'll do in about a minute, you can find me on Meetup. So the same way that you attended or found this event and signed up for it, you can chat with me there. You can look for our future series that we will do. I'm also like I said before, I developed the single to married program, which I am in the finishing stages of shooting content for, but the beginning structure is there. I joined a platform called School, and I think it's very powerful because right now our program is free. So a lot of the series we're doing here will be on there as well, including this recording. But the best thing about it is it's quicker access to me and other people, like colleagues that I work with, and bring in other points of view on discussion forums. So instead of endlessly scrolling Reddit and going to these weird Facebook groups, I have to let certain people in, and they gain status in this community based on the quality of their posts and their interaction. So it's a really easy way to find me, find my colleagues, look at some of our videos and our recordings, and right now it's free. With that being said, when this free series and this reoccurring theme that I'm doing of courses and the meetup, I do have paid one-on-one sessions. You can find out more about me, more specifics than what I've talked about on my website. I also have put my email here as well as my phone number, and the meetup, the school, and my logo links are all hyperlinked as well. So I'm not sure if I can find a way to like put this presentation on Meetup, but I will at least go back to that group chat we had earlier, where I believe Ali and maybe somebody else might have responded to me, and I'll definitely put these links there. With that being said, I wanted to thank everybody for attending today. I'm going to stop the recording now. So if you want to ask maybe more personal questions or have one-on-one things or turn on your camera, I hope that will make you feel a little bit more comfortable.